Well, hello everybody. Jasmine and I have a very special treat for you today. Yeah, it's, the video is her getting brushed and ready to be groomed because her hair was out of control. Yeah, and I know, out of control. And the audio is the first in a series. Jasmine! Hey, you're part of this. Yeah. The audio is a short story, and it's going to be one in a series. And I hope you enjoy it, because we're looking forward to it. Jasmine, you want a treat? Gets her every time. Treat? Yeah, okay. Anyway, see you at the end. Good girl.
Well, good morning, everybody. It is Saturday, September 14th, and I found a book to read. Come on, Jess. It was a book that is in the Creative Commons licensing, open to the public, free download, and it looks quite entertaining to me. So that is my mission today, is to record the beginnings of that book. All right. Oh, let's see what's new. I have a new podcast recommendation. The Dollop. It's not murder, it's not true crime, it's not anything like that. It is funny as hell. Yet it's just a dollop, like a small sampling, a serving, a dollop, a dollop of, a small portion, a dollop of sour cream on your potato of history. And I love it. It's so funny. They're each about an hour long. But it's a good one. So I'm gonna just take her for her quick little walk, and then I'm gonna go upstairs and shut myself in a quiet room and start reading this book. And I hope you all enjoy it. I've had lots of people asking for another book, and it's never left my mind. I'm just trying to find something I'm able to read. And, because you gotta have permission. But I actually did have a customer about a week ago who was an author and gave me permission to read his book. So last night I started looking into it to see more of what it was about, and it's not my cup of tea. He watches a pond in a state park for 15 years to keep poachers away from killing the steelhead. Yeah, so it's about fish. So not my thing. My husband thought it was very interesting, but not something I want to devote my time to reading. So anyway, come on, Jess. She's just, brain just took her out an hour ago and she did her business. She just is being curious. So, yeah, her haircut here, a little choppy. Yeah, it looks like crap, but she feels better. So, yeah, I spent like 4 hours doing that hack job to her. But it's cooler. Okay. All right, Jess, I got things I want to do. I believe the audio is probably going to go over the top of the video I made of me grooming her. So that'll be coming up next. So again, this is not meant to watch so much as just listen along while you're working on whatever you're working on. The machine had been invented a few years ago, a machine that could tell from just a sample of your blood how you were going to die. It didn't give you the date and it didn't give you the specifics. It just spat out a sliver of paper upon which were printed in careful block letters the words drowned or cancer or old age or choked on a handful of popcorn. It let people know how they were going to die. The problem with the machine is that nobody really knew how it worked, which wouldn't actually have been that much of a problem if the machine worked as well as we wished it would. But the machine was frustratingly vague in its predictions, dark and seemingly delighting in the ambiguities of language. Old age, it had already turned out, could mean either dying of natural causes or being shot by a bedridden man in a botched home invasion. The machine captured that old world sense of irony in death. You can know how it's going to happen, but you'll still be surprised when it does. The realization that we could now know how we were going to die had changed the world. People became at once less fearful and more afraid. There's no reason not to go skydiving if you know the sliver of paper says buried alive. But the realization that these predictions seemed to revel in turnabout and surprise put a damper on things. It made the predictions more sinister. Yes, skydiving should be safe if you're going to be buried alive. But what if you landed in a gravel pit? What if you were buried alive not in dirt, but in something else? And would being caught in a collapsing building count as being buried alive? For every possibility the machine closed, it seemed to open several more with varying degrees of plausibility. By that time, of course, the machine had been reverse engineered and duplicated, its internal workings being rather simple to construct. And yes, we found out that its predictions weren't as straightforward as they seemed upon initial discovery at about the same time everyone else did. We tested it before announcing it to the world, but testing took time, too much, since we had to wait for people to die. After 4 years had gone by and 3 people died as the machine predicted, we shipped it out the door. There were now machines in every doctor's office and in booths at the mall. You could pay someone, or you could probably get it done for free, but the result was the same, no matter what machine you went to. They were at least consistent. Flaming Marshmallow. I'm so freaking excited I can hardly stand it. Tomorrow. Tomorrow is my birthday. The birthday. The birthday everybody waits and waits for until you get there, and you just hate that all your old friends already got theirs and you're the only one without it yet. And sometimes you think, holy freaking F, I'm never going to turn 16. But then you do. At first I'm afraid I won't be able to sleep. I turn off the light, but after lying in the dark for half an hour, I turned it back on. I look at the calendar hanging on the wall above my bed. I reach up, lift it off its nail with one hand, and snuggle back under the covers, taking the calendar with me and running a finger over all the red X's marked over all the days leading up to this one. It's a little cold out, and the last thing in the universe I want to do is catch an effing cold the week of my birthday, so I snuggle down into the warmth of my flannel sheets even more. I know there's going to be parties this weekend, and I'm going to want to go. This is what I've been waiting for all these months, all these years, I guess, though before my friends started getting theirs, it didn't seem like such a big deal. We were all no-nos then. Tomorrow, I'm finally going to feel like I belong. Tomorrow, I'm going to find out how I die. Carolyn, yo girl, wait up. At the sound of my name, I turn around. It's Patrice. I can see her bounding up across the commons toward me. Her super long hair is braided today, and as she runs, it whips around the sides of her head like 2 angry red snakes with ribbons tied to their tails. Hey, Patrice, I say, and clutch my books closer to my chest. I try to walk a little faster, thinking maybe she'll get the hint. She doesn't. Today's the big day, huh? She says. I nod. She turns her head away, bites her lip. Lucky, she says. I shrug, speed up even more. It's not my problem. She's one of the smartest kids in our class, and they moved her up a grade like 4 years ago. It's not my fault she's going to be a no-no for another whole year. Out of the corner of my eye, I can see Brad Binder. He's so effing cool. A burner, they say. That's hot, I think. And then I laughed myself. What's so funny? Asked Patrice. We're at my locker, so I balance my books on my knee with one hand while I fumble my combo lock with the other. I pretend I don't hear her, but she sees me flicking sly glances in Brad Binder's direction. Not him, she says, rolling her eyes. You can't be serious. Shh. I try to shut her up. I wish I had some kind of freaking superpower or something. I wish I could just concentrate really hard and make her go away. Brad Binder pulls his leather jacket out of his locker, which is so close to mine. 3 other girls have asked to trade lockers with me. He shrugs his perfect, so effing perfect shoulders into the jacket and takes out just a notebook with a pencil shoved in its rings. No computer, no books, no nothing. God, that's so effing cool. Just like a burner. As Brad walks away, Patrice fixes me with one of those stares of hers. He's not that great, you know. I heard he kisses like a dead lizard. I guess you'd know, I almost say, but I stop myself. I don't want to stoop to her level, be so childish. I'm 16 today, and after school, my dad's taking me to the mall to get that slip of paper, and then I'll know where I really belong. So I shrug again instead, let it slide off me like egg off Teflon. He's a burner, I say. They're pretty cool. Patrice snorts. You know what his slip said? Flaming Marshmallow. That doesn't sound like a real burner cause of death to me, no matter what he says. You should probably be hanging out with the chokers instead. You wouldn't think he was so tough then. I've had enough of Patrice. You wouldn't understand, I tell her, and walk away toward geometry class. Maybe Cindy Marshall will be nice to me today, it being so close to me getting my C of D slip. Maybe I'll end up being a crasher like her, if only. I'm almost late getting to class. Mrs. Tharple looks at me extra sour, but I don't give a flying F. I slide into my seat right as the bell rings and catch Cindy Marshall's eye. I smile. Don't even look at me, you no-no, she says to me, low under her breath as Mrs. Tharple starts handing out our pop quiz. The other 2 girls behind her snicker. I can feel their eyes darting against my skin, sharp like the teeth of weasels. It's my birthday, I say. She turns in her seat and looks at me full on. I try to understand the look in her eyes, but I can't. I feel like it's something really obvious, like she's trying to tell me something so obvious. I should already know it. I feel really stupid. Mrs. Tharple walks between us, places our blank quizzes face up on the desks in front of us, glides on by to the next row and toward the front of the room again. I look down at my geometry quiz, try to concentrate, try to ignore the heat in my cheeks, in the tips of my ears, and on the back of my neck. Hey, you, hisses Cindy Marshall. I look up. So did you get your slip yet? I shake my head. After school, I tell her. She narrows her eyes. I can sense the other girls, crashers both, also watching me, but I play it cool, I hope. She nods. If you get your C of D and it's crashing, anything, plane, car, bike, hot frickin' air balloon, whatever, you come talk to me again, tomorrow. I have to bite the insides of my cheeks to keep from smiling. I try to look like this isn't the best offer I've gotten all morning. I try to look tough. I want to be crasher material. I really do. Tomorrow, I say, and she nods again once. Not one of those girls acknowledges my existence the entire rest of the class, but I don't care. Everything will be different tomorrow. Tomorrow, my life can begin. Lunch isn't what I'd hoped for. I've spent all this time counting down to my birthday thinking this is the day everything changes, but it isn't. I don't feel like a no-no anymore, even though technically I still don't actually know. I'm under 18, so I have to have my parent or legal guardian with me to get my slip. If I could have, I would have ditched lunch today, gone to the mall, gotten the whole thing over with. Instead, I have to go wait for my dad to get off work. It's so unfair. So even if I get my slip tonight, nobody but me is going to know my cause of death until tomorrow. Well, my parents will know, and my little brother, I guess. And I'm sure I could call Patrice and tell her, but why? After tomorrow, I'll have new friends to hang out with. But for today, I'm still stuck in No-Noville. I grab my tray and slide onto the bench at the end of the table. Patrice waves me down further toward her end, but I pretend I don't see her. I line up my 8 extra packets of mustard and start tearing the corners off one by one, slowly squeezing out the sharp yellow and gooping it all over the top of my synthesized proteins and pressed vegetable shapes. Covertly, I scan the room, wondering, fantasizing about where I might be allowed to sit tomorrow, who's going to welcome me with open arms. It all depends on my C of D. A ruckus is going on over in the corner. Of course, it's the burner kids cracking each other up, starting a food fight. The burners, the drowners, the crashers, the live wires, and the fallers. All the violent accidentals. They sit in mingled clumps along the 2 tables in the corner. That's the coolest corner, and I'm pretty sure I'll get to sit there tomorrow, or at least close. The next couple of tables out wouldn't be so bad. You've got the med heads and the sharpies and the bullets, mostly malpractice and murder, right? Though some kids sneak in there who should probably be over with the suicides. I can see those from here, all dressed in black with pale faces. They look like a bunch of crows pecking at their food. Just please don't let me be one of the last 2 tables. Sickness and old age. Ugh. They look boring, even eating lunch. That would be my C of D if I was forced to sit at the table, bored to death. Happy birthday, Carolyn. I was so startled I squeezed a mustard packet too hard and it squirts all down the front of my dress. I start to dab it with a napkin, but I'm just turning bitter yellow clumps into bitter yellow smears. I'm so sorry, Carolyn. I look up into Jamie's face. We used to be friends a long, long time ago. He lives just down the street, and we used to ride bikes together every single day. I can still taste the sun and summer dust on my tongue just looking at him. We stopped hanging out when his parents joined the anti-MOD league. Sometimes, on the way home from school, I see his mom standing out in front of the mall with her placard and her sandwich board. Lives are for living, say her signs some days. Others, people against machines of death, or even don't ask, don't know, you have a choice. Jamie's almost 18, and he's still a no-no. I'd just die if that were me. I'd just die. It's okay, Jamie, I tell him. Don't worry about it. He has a couple of napkins in his hands, and he's dipping them in his water and holding them out to me. He started to dab one on my breast, but figured out in time it probably wouldn't be such a good idea. I try to stifle a sudden memory of me and him kissing behind the convenience store dumpster. I was probably about 12 or 13, and he was 14 or so, right before his parents joined the league. I remember he tasted like strawberries. I hope Jamie doesn't see my ears and neck turn red. He's one of the few people who knows me too well for me to hide it. Your mom picking you up after school? He asks. I keep dabbing, shaking my head. My dad. He nods. He's watching the motions of my hands as I rub the damp napkins on my lap on the fabric stretched across my ribs. But he's not really seeing me. I'm sorry, he says again, and I don't think he's talking about mustard. By the time Dad picks me up, I'm mentally exhausted. He kisses the top of my head when I get into the car. Hey, kid. Happy special day. Thanks. I throw my stuff in the back seat and fasten my lap belt. Dad's just sitting there with a lopsided smile on his face. You want to go get an ice cream first or something? He says. You want a pizza? A movie? How can he be so freaking clueless? I want to tell him what a moron he's being, but when I look at him, something feels like it slips sideways in my stomach. For the first time, I'm looking at the 40-something man with glasses and the stubbled cheeks and the ugly sweater, and I don't see my dad. I mean, yes, of course, I see my dad, the middle-aged, medhead, C of D, accidental overdose, with the over-expensive house and the boring job and the 2 kids and last year's car. bought cheap with high mileage from a rental fleet. But I also see a guy. I see a guy who loves me so much he can't even put it into words. It never occurred to me to think this might be a big deal for him the day I get my slip. He looks tired, I think. More tired than usual. I reach out and put my hand on his where it's resting on the steering wheel. Sure, Dad, I say. Whatever you want. He covers my hand with his other one, so it's kind of like a hand sandwich. My fingers and knuckles press between 2 layers of his. His eyes look a little bright for a second, but I decide it's only my imagination as he places my hand back in my own lap and starts the car and pulls out from the curb. I watch the school get smaller and smaller in the side mirror as we drive away. I finish off the last of my ice cream cone, and so does Dad. We wipe our sticky fingers on the wet wipes and throw those away, and I get up from our food court table and gather all my bags as I stand. Dad's bought me a new pair of shoes, 2 new books, and a hat he says I look great in, but which I know I'll never, ever wear again in a million billion. All I'm missing is the partridge in a pear tree. So, what's next, birthday girl? We need some new gloves, music. You used to love the music store. He's walking over to the mall directory, studying the list of stores. I walk up to him, set down my bags of books and shoes, and touch his arm. Dad, I say, it's time. He doesn't look at me right away. He takes off his glasses and starts to clean them on the edge of his sweater. I can see he's just making them all linty and smeary, so I take them from him and clean them on the inside hem of my dress instead. When I hand them back, they're considerably cleaner, and I pick up my bags and start walking in the direction of the slip kiosk. I don't have to look up the location on the mall directory. I know exactly where it is. There's not a 15-year-old in the country who doesn't know the location of the nearest machine. I know its hours of operation, regular mall open hours, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. I know how much it costs, $19.95 plus tax. I even know the brand, Deathomat by Digco. We give the same results for less. The only thing I don't know is what's going to be on that strip of paper when it scrolls out of that slot. It's getting kind of late and the mall's going to close soon. Most of the stores are empty. It's a school night, so nobody my age is around. It's mostly tired-looking shop clerks with achy feet and straggly-haired moms pushing heavy strollers. The machine kiosk is in a darkish corner over by the restrooms. The janitor has the door propped open to the ladies, and even though I kind of have to go, I'm not about to brave the janitor and his stinky mop. Besides, I don't want to put this off anymore. I need to know. Dad pauses when we get to the machine. He fumbles with his wallet, pulls out his identity and credit cards. He clears his throat, but doesn't say anything. Doesn't look at me. I thought Dad's hand shook a little when he slid his cards into their proper slots and keyed in his and my social security numbers and other information, but I'm sure I was imagining things. It was probably just my brain buzzing. That's what it feels like inside my head right now. Like all the curves and loops and folds my brain are buzzing with tiny bees, or maybe electric currents. I guess brains are, after all, though. Filled with electric currents, that is, not tiny bees. The machine's green light comes on and an arrow points to the small, shiny, self-cleaning divot in the otherwise dull metal. I set my bags down at my feet, slowly reach one finger toward the indentation. Carolyn! I jump, look up into Dad's face. He pushes his glasses back on the bridge of his nose, fumbles it a little, blinks. For an extra $5, it will tell you your blood type, your glucose levels, and whether or not you're pregnant. He points to the list printed on the machine's face. Then he frowns, distracted. Hey, there's no way you might be pregnant, is there? I close the tiny distance between us and wrap my arms around his waist. He hugs me back, and for a second, as I breathe in the warm, fuggy sweater dadness of him, I feel like the most precious and important thing in the universe. Without letting go of Dad or giving him any warning, I reach behind him and jab my finger into the shiny divot. Dad flinches and presses my face closer to his chest. A tiny, slicing pain flits across my finger, then numbness as the machine sprays its analgesic and disinfectant. I pull back from Dad and he clears his throat and lets me go. The machine spits out Dad's 2 cards from their slots, and my slip scrolls out from the single slot below. Dad and I both reach for it, but when I freeze, he pulls back. I've got to do this, and he knows it. He plucks the plastic from the machine and slides the cards into his wallet while I uncurl my slip and read. I read it 3 times, 4 times. I'm on my 5th when Dad, unable to contain himself, gently tugs the paper from my stiff fingers and reads aloud. Death by Millennium Space Entropy, he says. But Dad wraps both arms around me and swings me up into the air like he hasn't done since I was a very, very little girl. I keep my arms stiff but let my legs and body go limp, and Dad twirls me in a circle, laughing, joyous. He finally sets me down, and I have to reach out a hand to steady myself against the edge of the machine. I'm a little dizzy and confused. Millennium Space Entropy, says Dad, shaking his head, unrolling the slip and reading it again. That's amazing, Carolyn. It's fantastic. You'll be nearly 1,000 years old by the next millennium. Maybe you'll live to be 1,000. Just think, medical breakthroughs all the time, vastly extended lifespans. It could happen, sweetheart. It could really happen. Dad, grinning, crushes me into his chest again, and I can hear the rumble of his happiness somewhere deep inside. I just want you to have a long and happy life, Carolyn. A very long, long and happy life. But Dad, I say into the nubby wool of his sweater, where will I sit tomorrow at lunch? Story by Camille Alexa.
So I hope that you enjoyed that. Jasmine, yeah, she's very patient. She really is. And you can tell she needs a little nap. Yeah. But, hey, if you liked it, you know the routine. Thumbs up. If you didn't, hey, give it a thumbs down. That helps us too. And please, feel free to leave a comment. Just don't be rude. And if you want to see what other stories we've got coming, make sure and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any. Because, yeah, this is some motivation to put out regular videos. She's been a little distracted lately with her game. Hey Jasmine, I have a trick. I can eat my entire face. Want to see your treats for tricks and yes, look, I can swallow my whole face. Watch. Haha. Ah. No sense of humor. All right. See you guys in the next one.